Broke Millennial by Aaron Lowry. Ever felt broke right after payday? You promise yourself that next month will be different, that this time you'll save something, pay off that debt, or finally start budgeting. Yet somehow the money disappears faster than you can blink. Rent, bills, groceries, a night out with friends, and suddenly you're counting days till the next paycheck. It's a frustrating cycle that so many young adults face today, working hard but never quite feeling financially secure. Aaron Lowry knows that feeling all too well. That's why she wrote Broke Millennial, Stop Scraping By and Get Your Financial Life Together, a refreshingly honest, funny, and practical guide that talks about money the way real people live it. Instead of throwing confusing financial jargon at you, Lowry breaks it down with relatable stories, real-world examples, and a tone that feels more like advice from a friend than a lecture from a financial expert. She understands the emotions, the fear, the confusion, and even the shame that come with being broke. But more importantly, she shows that you don't have to stay there. Broke Millennial is your step-by-step wake-up call to finally take charge of your money and your future. Who is the broke millennial? Being a broke millennial isn't just about having an empty wallet. It's about feeling trapped in a financial maze that never seems to end. It's waking up every morning knowing you work hard but still can't seem to catch up. It's juggling student loans, rent, credit card bills, and a paycheck that vanishes before the month is halfway through. It's the pressure of appearing successful on social media while silently struggling to keep your head above water. Aaron Lowry captures this perfectly, that being broke is not only about money, it's also about the emotional and cultural baggage that comes with it. In a world where financial stability is often tied to self-worth, the broke millennial constantly battles guilt, shame, and comparison. Lowry doesn't judge this struggle, she lived it. She began writing Broke Millennial after realizing that most personal finance books didn't speak to people her age in a language they understood. They talked about retirement plans, investments, and 401ks as if everyone already had them, while ignoring the very real problem of starting adulthood with debt, low pay, and confusion. Lowry's motivation came from wanting to create a guide that felt human, one that laughed with you, not at you. She uses humor, personal stories, and pop culture references to make finance feel less intimidating and more like a conversation among friends. Her approach dismantles the stereotype that millennials are bad with money and replaces it with compassion and understanding. Because truthfully, being broke today is often the result of systemic challenges, rising education costs, stagnant wages, and the illusion that success means luxury. Lowry encourages readers to drop the act, stop pretending, and face money head-on, not as victims, but as learners. To her, being a broke millennial is a phase, not an identity. It's the starting point of a financial awakening, a chance to unlearn toxic beliefs, rebuild from scratch, and redefine what wealth really means. In essence, Lowry shows that being broke is not the end of the story, it's the moment you decide to start writing a better one. Understanding your relationship with money. Before you can fix your finances, you first have to understand your relationship with money, and that's exactly where Aaron Lowry begins. In Broke Millennial, she insists that managing money isn't just about numbers, spreadsheets, or apps. It's about emotion, psychology, and history. Every decision you make with money, whether you spend, save, or avoid it altogether, is shaped by your past. Lowry introduces the idea of a money story, the personal narrative each of us carries about what money means. This story begins in childhood, through what we saw, heard, and experienced growing up. Maybe you watched your parents argue about bills, or perhaps you grew up in a home where money was never discussed at all. Maybe you learned early that money was scarce, or that spending it quickly was normal. All of these experiences silently build your money mindset, the beliefs that drive your financial behavior as an adult. Lowry encourages readers to pause and reflect on that story. She asks questions like, what messages did you absorb about money growing up?
Did you associate it with stress, power, or freedom? Do you believe money is evil or that you're not good with it? By confronting these internalized ideas, you begin to understand why you make certain choices today. Many people, Lowry notes, live in financial denial, afraid to check their bank accounts, avoiding bills, or pretending things are fine when they're not. Others feel deep shame about being broke, assuming that financial struggles reflect personal failure. Lowry shatters that myth. She reminds readers that guilt and shame are emotional traps that keep you stuck, while honesty sets you free. You can't build wealth if you're hiding from reality. The first step towards change is to face your financial truth, no matter how messy it looks. One of her most powerful lessons is that money isn't evil, but your fear of it might be holding you back. Many people grow up believing that money is corrupt, or that wanting more makes you greedy. Lowry flips that belief on its head, explaining that money itself is neutral. It simply amplifies who you already are. The real danger lies in letting fear, ignorance, or guilt control how you use it. She encourages readers to replace fear with curiosity. Learn about money, talk about it openly, and see it as a tool for freedom, not a source of stress. Lowry also points out that money isn't just a financial issue, it's cultural and emotional. Society often equates wealth with success, which pressures people to spend beyond their means, just to look the part. This emotional burden can be exhausting, especially for millennials navigating social media perfection and comparison traps. That's why understanding your money mindset is the foundation for everything else in Broke Millennial. Once you know your story, you can rewrite it. You can decide what wealth means to you, not what society tells you it should be. Lowry's message is clear. Before you can master your money, you must master your mindset. And that journey begins with brutal honesty, facing your financial fears, rewriting your money story, and finally giving yourself permission to build a new one rooted in confidence, awareness, and peace. How to stop scraping by. Once you've faced your financial reality and begun to understand your relationship with money, Erin Lowry's next step in Broke Millennial is to help you stop scraping by, that exhausting cycle of earning, spending, and stressing before the next paycheck lands. She explains that most people don't stay broke because they're lazy or irresponsible. They stay broke because they're financially unaware. The first step out of that trap is simple but powerful. Know exactly where your money goes. Most of us think we know, but Lowry challenges that assumption. She asks readers to track every single expense for at least a month. Yes, even that sneaky iced coffee or the spontaneous online order. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness.
Because when you finally see your spending laid out in front of you, you start noticing patterns. Maybe it's those frequent food deliveries that quietly eat away your budget, or the streaming subscriptions you forgot to cancel. Awareness transforms confusion into clarity. As Lowry puts it, you can't manage what you don't measure. After you know where your money goes, the next crucial move is creating a simple, flexible budget. Lowry's not a fan of rigid financial diets that make you feel deprived. Instead, she recommends frameworks that adapt to real life, like the 50-20-30 rule, where 50% of your income goes to needs, 20% to savings and debt repayment, and 30% to wants. It's a balanced system that recognizes you're human and need room for enjoyment. Alternatively, she suggests zero-based budgeting, where every dollar is assigned a purpose, whether it's bills, savings, or fun money, ensuring nothing slips through the cracks. Lowry's goal isn't to make you a budgeting robot, it's to help you take control of your income in a way that fits your lifestyle. She humorously reminds readers, you don't need to give up avocado toast, but you do need to know how much it's costing your goals. Budgeting, she argues, isn't punishment, it's empowerment. It's like giving every dollar a job, so your money works for you, instead of disappearing on impulse. But for a budget to work, you must learn to distinguish between needs and wants. This is where most people trip up. We often convince ourselves that convenience purchases are needs,
The daily latte, the upgraded phone, or the Uber ride because we're running late. Lowry gently challenges these habits not by shaming you, but by helping you question your priorities. Do you really need a new outfit for every event? Or are you trying to buy confidence? Do you need to eat out 3 times a week? Or are you trying to escape stress? When you start aligning your spending with your values, you'll notice your money stretching further than you thought possible. Lowry also debunks one of the biggest myths in personal finance, the idea that you need to earn a lot to start managing money well. She insists that wealth building begins with behavior, not income. Even if you're earning modestly, you can still build a foundation for financial security through discipline, awareness, and small, consistent steps. The broke millennial power lies not in a huge paycheck, but in intentionality, being mindful about how every dollar is used. She writes that financial success isn't about perfection, it's about progress. To keep it light, Lowry uses humor and real-life examples. She describes how many of us buy things we don't need just to feel momentarily better about our lives, only to regret it later. She reminds readers that managing money doesn't mean cutting joy from your life. It means spending with purpose. You can enjoy your coffee, your Netflix, and your social outings as long as they fit within a plan that supports your bigger dreams. Ultimately, Lowry's approach to stopping the scrape isn't about deprivation. It's about clarity and control. When you track your spending, budget wisely, and make conscious choices, you reclaim power over your financial story. You start moving from paycheck panic to paycheck purpose. And as Lowry assures, once you experience that sense of control, you'll never want to go back to the chaos of scraping by again. Debt. Facing the monster. Debt. The word alone can make your stomach tighten. For many millennials, it's not just a financial burden, but an emotional one. Erin Lowry tackles this head-on in Broke Millennial, describing debt as the monster under your financial bed. It's scary when you ignore it, but once you face it, you realize it's not invincible. She doesn't sugarcoat the reality. Most young adults are juggling student loans, credit card debts, or car payments while trying to live their lives. But Lowry's message is simple. Debt doesn't define you, it's just something you have to manage strategically. The key is clarity. She encourages readers to begin by listing out every single debt they owe, no matter how overwhelming it feels. Write it down, the balance, interest rate, and minimum payment, because, as she puts it, you can't slay a monster you won't look at. This process transforms your fear into focus. Once your debts are visible, you can finally build a plan instead of living in anxiety. Lowry explains 2 major repayment methods, the snowball and the avalanche, and helps readers choose the one that feels best to their personality. The snowball method focuses on momentum. You pay off your smallest debts first, regardless of interest rate, gaining emotional wins as you go. Each time you eliminate one balance, you roll that payment into the next debt, like a snowball getting bigger and faster downhill. This method works best for people who need quick motivation to stay consistent. The avalanche method, on the other hand, is all about math and efficiency. You target debts with the highest interest rate first, saving the most money in the long run. It's slower to show results emotionally, but financially smarter. Lowry doesn't claim one is superior. She encourages choosing the one that feels sustainable. The best plan, she writes, is the one you'll actually stick with. While tackling debt, Lowry insists on something many people overlook: building an emergency fund. It sounds counterintuitive. Why save money when you owe so much? But Lowry explains that emergencies are part of life. Without a small cushion, one unexpected expense, a car repair, medical bill, or job delay, can throw you right back into borrowing. She recommends starting small, even if it's just $500 or 1 month's expenses. The point isn't perfection, it's protection. That little buffer keeps you from relying on credit cards when life gets unpredictable. Think of it as your personal shield while you battle debt. Lowry also dives deep into the emotional weight of debt, the guilt, the comparison, the quiet shame. It's easy to scroll through social media and feel like everyone else is doing better, buying houses, taking vacations, or driving new cars, while you're struggling to make minimum payments. But Lowry urges readers to remember that appearances lie. Many of those successful people are deep in debt themselves. You can't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. She reminds us the goal is progress, not perfection. Every small victory counts, which she calls micro wins. Paying off one credit card, reducing your interest rate, or even calling your lender to negotiate better terms. These are all meaningful steps forward. What makes Lowry's advice refreshing is her tone. She never preaches or blames. Instead, she normalizes the experience of debt while showing there is a way out. She shares stories of her own early financial struggles, proving that change comes from consistency, not luck. Her focus is always on empowerment. She reminds readers that debt doesn't make you irresponsible, it makes you human. What matters is how you respond. Facing the monster doesn't mean slaying it overnight. It means meeting it with a plan, persistence, and patience. In the end, Lowry's philosophy on debt is both practical and compassionate. You're not just paying off balances, you're rebuilding trust with yourself. Each payment is a promise to your future self that you won't stay stuck forever.
Debt might be the monster in your story, but you're the one holding the sword. And with every small win, that monster gets a little smaller, until one day it's gone entirely. How to talk about money. One of the most refreshing and practical sections in Broke Millennial is Erin Lowry's guide to talking about money, something that many of us struggle with far more than we admit. She points out that for all the progress modern society has made in discussing mental health, relationships, and personal struggles, money still feels like the last taboo. People can share the most intimate details of their lives online, yet freeze when someone mentions salaries, debt, or budgeting. Lowry argues that this silence keeps us financially isolated and often leads to misunderstanding, resentment, or even shame. To her, healthy money conversations are a sign of emotional maturity, not awkwardness. Whether it's splitting bills with friends, discussing finances with a partner, or setting boundaries with family, she believes that communication is the ultimate wealth skill. Lowry tackles one of the most common dilemmas among young adults: splitting bills fairly. Picture this. You're out to dinner with friends, and when the check comes, someone cheerfully suggests splitting it evenly, even though you ordered the cheapest meal and skipped the cocktails. Sound familiar? Lowry calls this bill blindness, a social habit that often punishes the budget conscious. Her advice is simple but bold. Speak up. You don't have to be confrontational, just clear. Try saying, "Hey guys, I only had the pasta and a soda, so I'll just pay for mine." It's respectful, honest, and sets a boundary. Lowry reminds readers that real friends won't judge you for being responsible. If they do, that says more about them than it does about you. Then there's the tricky art of saying, "I can't afford that," without feeling embarrassed. Lowry acknowledges how hard this can be. In a culture obsessed with appearances, when everyone's planning a group trip, attending expensive weddings, or suggesting brunch at trendy spots, saying no feels like admitting defeat. But she reframes it as a power move, choosing honesty over debt. If you're invited on a weekend getaway that your budget can't handle, she suggests responding with confidence rather than apology. You might say, "I'd love to join, but it's not in my budget right now. Maybe I can meet you all for dinner before you leave." It's firm, friendly, and shows that you value the relationship even if you can't match someone else's spending. Lowry emphasizes that saying, "I can't afford that," doesn't make you cheap, it makes you financially self-aware. Lowry also dives deep into financial boundaries in relationships. Money can be one of the biggest sources of tension between partners or even family members. She advises being transparent early in romantic relationships, not by dumping your entire financial history on the table, but by having open, judgment-free conversations about spending habits, goals, and values. The same applies to family. Maybe a relative constantly borrows money and never pays it back, or a parent expects financial help you can't provide.
Lowry urges readers to remember that boundaries protect relationships, they don't destroy them. Saying no can be uncomfortable, but it's far better than silently resenting someone while damaging your financial stability. Through humor, empathy, and real examples, Erin Lowry makes the uncomfortable topic of money feel manageable. She wants readers to understand that financial conversations aren't about confrontation, they're about clarity. When you can talk openly about money, you take away its power to divide, control, or embarrass you. In Lowry's world, the most financially successful people aren't just those who earn well or save wisely. They're the ones who can say what they mean, set clear boundaries, and have honest conversations about the one thing we all deal with but rarely talk about: money. Salary, negotiation, and side hustles. One of the most empowering parts of Broke Millennial is when Erin Lowry turns the spotlight toward income, how to grow it, demand it, and make it work smarter for you. She reminds readers that no matter how well you budget, cut costs, or save, you can't truly build financial stability if your income doesn't match your value. That's why she pushes millennials to stop settling for less than they deserve, especially when it comes to their salary. Lowry doesn't just tell readers to ask for a raise, she teaches how to do it with confidence and strategy. First, she says, you must research your market value. Know what others in your position and field are earning and gather real data. Websites like Glassdoor, Payscale, or even open conversations with peers can reveal what you should be making. Then, instead of timidly asking for a little more, she encourages you to make your case with evidence. Based on my contributions and industry standards, I believe a salary of X is fair. It's about shifting from an apologetic mindset to a business one. Your job is a value exchange, not a favor. Lowry points out how deeply emotional salary conversations can be. Many millennials were raised in environments where talking about money was taboo or even rude, so the idea of negotiating pay feels uncomfortable. But she insists that this discomfort is exactly why people stay underpaid. The goal, she says, is to approach the conversation not as a confrontation, but as a collaboration. You're showing your employer why paying you more benefits them too, because you're an asset. If you can demonstrate how you've saved the company time, increased efficiency, or improved performance, you're not just asking for a raise, you're proving you deserve one. Lowry's tone throughout is both humorous and realistic. She jokes that no one's going to walk into your office and hand you an extra $5,000 for being nice. You have to advocate for yourself, or no one will. Then she shifts into the world of side hustles, one of the modern millennial trademarks. Lowry recognizes that the gig economy has opened new doors for earning, but she's also quick to warn against glorifying hustle culture. She explains that side hustles should serve your goals, not become your entire life. If your side gig helps you pay off debt faster, build savings, or fund a dream project, that's great. But if it's making you miserable, stealing your sleep, and burning you out, then it's not really helping. She reminds readers that the point of earning more is to live better, not to spend every waking moment grinding. The danger, she says, is that many millennials mistake movement for progress. Working 3 jobs doesn't automatically mean you're building wealth, not if you're too exhausted to make smart decisions with your money. She encourages people to be intentional about their extra income. Treat your side hustle earnings like a bonus toward your goals. Save a portion, invest some, and allow yourself a little joy with the rest. She's not against hard work, she's against meaningless hustle. There's a difference between being busy and building wealth. The empowering truth she wants every reader to internalize is that broke isn't a permanent state, it's a starting point. Through negotiation, smart income choices, and purposeful side hustles, you transform from reactive to strategic.
You stop feeling like money controls you and start taking charge of your financial story. And that's the turning point where a broke millennial begins to evolve into a financially confident adult. Investing without the fear factor. When Erin Lowry first wrote Broke Millennial, her goal was to help readers get control over the money they already had. But when she followed it up with Broke Millennial Takes on Investing, she took things to the next level, showing that once you've stopped living paycheck to paycheck, the next step isn't just saving, it's growing. The problem is, many millennials hear the word investing and immediately tense up. It sounds complicated, risky, and like something only rich people or finance experts do. Lowry breaks that fear with her signature humor and real-talk approach, turning investing into something anyone can understand. She insists that investing isn't about being wealthy first, it's about becoming wealthy over time. You don't need a six-figure salary or fancy brokerage account to start. What you need is patience, curiosity, and a willingness to plant your first seed. Lowry uses one of the simplest metaphors to describe investing. It's like planting a money tree. The earlier you plant it, the bigger the shade later. Every dollar you invest today is like a seed that grows over time, and thanks to compound interest, those seeds multiply faster the longer they stay in the ground. That's why she emphasizes starting early, even if it's just a small amount. The secret weapon of every successful investor isn't luck or timing, it's time itself. A few dollars invested in your 20s can grow into tens of thousands by retirement, simply because of the magic of compounding. The key, she says, is not to wait for the perfect moment to start. Waiting until you have more money, less debt, or more knowledge only delays your growth. Start messy, start small, but just start. To remove the mystery, Lowry walks readers through the basic investment tools, especially retirement accounts like the 401k and IRA. She explains that these aren't just for old people, but powerful vehicles for anyone who wants financial independence. A 401k, for example, often comes with an employer match, basically free money that too many people leave on the table. An IRA, on the other hand, gives you flexibility and tax advantages that make your money work harder behind the scenes. Lowry's friendly tone helps demystify these terms. Instead of drowning readers in jargon, she compares them to different types of savings containers, some with better lids that keep more of your money inside. She makes investing approachable, reminding readers that you don't have to understand the stock market perfectly to benefit from it. She also tackles the emotional side of investing, the fear of losing money. Lowry doesn't deny that markets rise and fall, but she reframes volatility as opportunity. She reassures her readers that short-term dips don't mean disaster, they're simply part of the growth process. Just like a tree may sway in the wind, your investments may wobble, but as long as you don't uproot them, they'll keep growing stronger. What really hurts most people isn't market downturns, it's panic. Selling out of fear guarantees loss, while staying invested allows recovery and long-term gain. Lowry's humor shines here when she says, checking your investment account daily is like digging up your tree every morning to see if it's grown. Leave it alone and let it do its thing. By the end of her lesson, investing feels less like a gamble and more like self-care for your future. It's about giving your future self freedom, choices, and security. Lowry empowers millennials to shift from fear to curiosity, from avoidance to action. Investing, she shows, isn't reserved for Wall Street, it's for anyone who wants their money to stop sitting still and start growing. And when you see it that way, you realize you've been capable of being an investor all along. Living rich, not looking rich. In a world where our worth often feels tied to what we own, Erin Lowry delivers one of the most liberating truths in Broke Millennial. Living rich has nothing to do with looking rich. We live in an age of filtered success, Instagram feeds filled with luxury vacations, designer outfits, and new cars that make everyone else feel behind. But what Lowry does so brilliantly is pull back the curtain on this illusion. She reminds us that most people showing off a rich lifestyle are often the ones drowning in credit card debt or scraping by between paychecks. Her message hits hard and true. Stop comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel, because behind every curated post, there's often a financial story you don't see, one that might not be as glamorous as it looks. Lowry calls out the dangerous cycle of lifestyle inflation, the quiet trap that turns financial progress into financial stagnation. Every time you earn more, you start spending more, convincing yourself that you deserve the upgrade. A slightly higher paycheck suddenly justifies a bigger apartment, a fancier phone, or more nights out. It feels good in the moment, but it keeps you broke in the long run. Lowry's advice: pause and ask yourself whether these purchases align with your values or just your ego.
Do you want the thing or the feeling that comes with it? Because feelings fade, but financial stress sticks around. She pushes readers to recognize that true wealth isn't measured by what's visible. It's the freedom you feel when your bills are paid, your savings are growing, and you're no longer living in fear of the next emergency. This mindset shift requires courage in a culture that glorifies consumption. Lowry encourages readers to define what wealth means personally. For some, it's owning a home. For others, it's traveling, working less, or feeling secure enough to take risks. Whatever your definition, authenticity is key. Living within your means doesn't mean living small, it means living smart. It's saying no to debt-fueled appearances and yes to long-term peace of mind. It's buying what you truly love, not what will get likes. Lowry's humor lightens the message, but her point is serious. You can't build wealth if you're busy trying to look like you already have it. She also dives into the emotional side of money envy, the quiet shame of feeling behind when everyone else seems to be winning. Lowry dismantles this illusion with compassion, reminding readers that financial confidence always beats financial image. The person who quietly invests, budgets, and saves is far richer than the one showing off designer labels while paying minimum balances on maxed-out cards. She inspires readers to be proud of progress that doesn't show, the emergency fund no one claps for, the student loan payment that brings you closer to freedom, the choice to skip a party because you're prioritizing your goals. These invisible victories are the real markers of success. Ultimately, Lowry's message in Living Rich, Not Looking Rich is a call to authenticity. It's about reclaiming control from comparison and rewriting what success looks like. Wealth isn't a show, it's a state of peace, security, and choice. The goal isn't to impress strangers, but to build a life that quietly makes you proud. Because at the end of the day, true luxury isn't about having it all, it's about having enough and knowing you're right where you're meant to be.
Conclusion. At its core, Broke Millennial isn't just a personal finance book. It's a survival guide for anyone tired of feeling stuck, scared, or ashamed of their financial situation. Erin Lowry doesn't promise overnight success or millionaire status. Instead, she offers something far more powerful: self-awareness, discipline, and hope. The journey to financial freedom begins with knowing yourself, understanding your habits, fears, and emotional triggers around money. It's about uncovering your money story, the beliefs you inherited from childhood, and deciding which ones you're ready to let go of. Because before you can change your bank account, you have to change your mindset. When you know who you are and how you relate to money, every financial decision becomes clearer and more intentional. Lowry teaches that real progress doesn't come from massive leaps, but from small, consistent steps, tracking your expenses, saving a little each month, negotiating that raise, or paying off one small debt at a time. These are the quiet victories that compound over years. You don't need to have everything figured out to begin. You just need to start. Lowry's message is refreshingly human. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to learn late, and it's okay to not have all the answers. What matters is movement. Each small decision you make in favor of your future self adds up to something life-changing. And perhaps her most powerful lesson of all: never let shame control your money story. Too many people avoid their finances out of guilt or embarrassment, believing they've made too many mistakes to recover. But Lowry insists that shame has no place in personal growth. Everyone starts somewhere, and no financial situation is beyond repair. The moment you face your reality with honesty instead of fear, you begin to take back your power. Money is not your enemy. It's a tool that becomes stronger when handled with clarity and confidence. So if you're watching this, feeling broke, lost, or behind, take a deep breath. You are not alone, and you are not doomed to stay this way. Erin Lowry's message is simple but transformative. Financial peace doesn't start with wealth, it starts with awareness and action. You don't need perfection, you just need persistence. Your first step might be small, but it's the start of something big. Because as Lowry reminds us, broke isn't who you are, it's just where you're starting from. Thank you so much, friend, for listening.
Leave your ideas in the comments section so our community can grow by learning together. That's all for now. Until the next audiobook,